Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist BBQ. Today I cooked a 15-pound Wagyu Packer brisket. Voila. If you want to know exactly how I did it, keep watching the video. I'll show you step by step what I did. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the results because I know I was. So stick around, we'll show you what's going on. All right, we got our brisket here, and it's Australian Wagyu, which means that it should have exceptional marbling. So Wagyu is known for having lots and lots of intramuscular fat, and so hopefully in this brisket that translates to exceptionally juicy meat at the end of the process. Now, one thing I noticed just by looking through the plastic is that it looks like this brisket has been trimmed down more than most of the briskets I deal with. So hopefully the intramuscular fat kind of saves it from drying out, but I don't really know until we cut it open, so let's cut it open and take a look. Alright, so let's see what we've got here. Okay, this is going to have to get trimmed off. I notice I have a big bald patch right here in the flat, but I can actually see marbling right here, so hopefully that'll survive. And I got a couple bald patches right here. Okay, so this chunk of fat they definitely removed, which is totally fine by me. And then there's this fat at the front, which is going to protect it during the cooking process, so I like that. This is stuff that you can trim off, these little bits of fat on the underside of the brisket. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. The flat is fairly thick, so if you look at that, one thing you always want to look for is a thick flat. That's fairly thick, so it's pretty good. Let's get to trimming it up. I'm going to trim down a little bit of this fat. I don't want to have too much on there. You can always make friends when you're trimming a brisket. What's up, bud? You see all this meat? Huh? Yeah, he does. Smart dog. Now, I was talking about the marbling earlier. This is a chunk of the flat that I trimmed off just to kind of streamline the brisket a little bit. But if you see all of this marbling in there, that is exceptional. So even if you get a prime brisket, you usually don't see anything close to marbling like that. So hopefully that's where getting a Wagyu brisket is going to pay dividends in the end. All right, I just wanted to show you guys another shot of this trimming. It's trimmed off this little piece that was kind of hanging on. And if you look at this, that marbling is insane. I am really excited about how this is going to turn out. So this is a kind of brisket you might use for a competition or something like that because of all the intense marbling. So let's get this guy seasoned up and onto the smoker. I'm going to hit this with some salt and some rub, and we're going to get this on the smoker. The smoker is starting to get going back there. And so we're going to get a nice coating of seasoning, and I always salt separately just to control that variable as much as possible. And so I'm going to put a decent amount of rub on here because I want to get a really good flavor of the meat itself and see if it's different than the Angus that I usually use. I'm going to use a moderate coating of rub. So some might think it's heavy, some might think it's too light, but to me it's going to be kind of more moderate. But we'll get this guy seasoned up and then hopefully on the smoker and starting to cook. So this fire is still a little bit smoky, so I'm not going to close the thing down yet, but this brisket is looking just like I want it to. I'm not trying to let it come up to room temperature or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is put this on the smoker there, and once the fire gets going nice and clean, then I'll close it down and we'll start cooking. Alright, so I waited for the smoke to clean up and the temperature to kind of get to the place where I wanted. And now we've got this thing closed up, we got it rocking and rolling, and hopefully in 10 hours from now, we're going to have some delicious Wagyu brisket. we're back outside now with an update on this brisket cook, and we're battling triple-digit temperatures today, so we haven't been outside a whole bunch other than just to manage the fire and then duck back into the air conditioning. So let's open this up and see what we got going on right now. All right, so what I'm seeing is very good. We got fat rendering, nothing is burning. This fat right here, when I talk about rendered fat, if anybody wants to know what I mean, it's this right here. When you push it and it just gives and it starts to be sticky. Like, I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but these little strings of stickiness that are hitting my fingers when I touch it. So right now it's got a nice, really dark color. All that stuff is looking great. I just want a little bit more of this fat to render on the top of the meat, and then we're going to be ready to wrap. And so I've just been maybe every 30 minutes or so taking this and spraying it down just to make sure that nothing burns. I want to keep that flat nice and moist, and so just giving it some spray, and we're going to close this down, let it go for probably another 30 minutes or so, and then it'll be time to wrap, and we'll show you the wrap as well. So if I'm guessing right now, I'm guessing the temperature in the point is maybe 180 or so. The temperature in the flat, I would guess, is probably 10 degrees cooler than that. I'm not 100% sure, but that's not my main concern right now. So a lot of people look at just the temperature. For me, there are many more variables to when it's the correct time to wrap than just temperature, and I'm sure I'll go through that in a future video. But right now, the thing that's holding me back from wrapping is I want a little bit more fat rendered on the top here, and it's getting close. It's starting to give when I push it, but it's not to the point that I want it yet. So we're gonna let it keep going, and when it's time to wrap, we'll show you that, and then hopefully I'll be able to show you what I mean by that fat render that I'm looking for. Other than that, the color is great. It's maybe a little darker than I would prefer if I were choosing, but this isn't competition style brisket. We don't have to have that just mahogany color. We can have, you know, dark bark, and it's not a problem at all. We're gonna build up tons of flavor on that exterior. So let's close this thing down and let this keep going. The brisket's ready to wrap, and the fat's really starting to render well. So I'm gonna spray it on these outside edges, make sure nothing burns, and then we'll wrap it up. It's time to check out this brisket to see what the temperatures are like and to see how it's going. So I'm going to check the temperature in the point. A lot of times people will ask me, do you just poke through the paper? Yes. I'm not going to unwrap the brisket every time I want to check the temperature. And the size of the hole is so small that it really doesn't make a difference. So got 186 in the point, and let me check the flat here. Okay, 177. So this is about 10 degrees behind. So what I'm gonna do so that the flat can catch up is I'm actually gonna turn this brisket around and put the flat a little toward the fire just so it catches up to where the point is, and then hopefully they're both done at the same time. We're looking for about 203, but we're gonna go on feel. Now, I'm using a Thermapen, and for a long time I refused to use the Thermapen because I thought, geez, $100 for a thermometer, that's highway robbery, it's ridiculous. But I had so many of my other digital instant read thermometers die on me because maybe they got a little wet, or it was moist outside, or you know, it was raining while I was trying to do a cook and it got fried. So for various reasons they all died. Well more than $100 worth of instant read thermometers, and then since I've gotten this one, it's been rained on, it's been dropped, it's been just kind of abused and used over and over and over again. I've used it to check, at this point, hundreds of briskets, and it's always fast, it's always reliable, and I love it. It's definitely worth the investment. There's some things that you don't need the expensive version, but for this, it's 100% worth the investment. I'll include a link down below. The Thermapen has a lion's share of the market, and justifiably so. So if you're interested in one, check it out. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's been 15 hours since we started, so a long time waiting for this brisket to get done. So we pulled it off at, it was about 2:01, and so it started to feel right then. So I don't know if it's gonna be a little different because it's a Wagyu brisket, maybe the marbling's different. I don't know, but it felt right at about 201, so I pulled it off and rested it. So it's time to open this thing up and take a look at what we've got. Unwrapped, this is what we've got going on right here. And I gotta tell you, it looks pretty good. It seems like there's a lot of moisture still here. This fat is rendered beautifully. And pro tip, don't throw away the used butcher paper. You can use that to start your next fire. So if my hands are any indication of how moist this brisket is gonna be, I think we're in good shape. So I'm gonna turn this thing around because I'm right-handed. I always start cutting from the right side. And I wanna try 3 different parts of the brisket. I wanna try a slice from the flat. I wanna try a slice from the point, and then a chunk from where you could make burnt ends. So this kind of chunk of point that kind of hangs over above this band of fat underneath there. I want to try one of those, and I think from those 3 bites we'll be able to get a good sense of what this brisket is like. So first I'm going to separate these 2. See what that looks like. That looks pretty good. And so I'll take a slice right from the middle of the flat here. Look at all that juice. Alright, that's the slice I want. Okay. The moisture is definitely there. This is incredibly moist for the flat of a brisket. I mean, it just glistens everywhere. So this is looking really good. So next step is to take a bite. Okay, let's see if we can do the pull test here. So it doesn't fall, but it should pull apart. Yeah, pretty good. That's super good. Man, as my pappy used to say, you can't beat that with a stick. It's super tasty. So just get this bark on the bottom and see what that tastes like. Yeah. One thing I do notice though is that this Wagyu, while it's just crazy moist, which if you're having problems with moisture retention in your brisket, maybe this is a good choice. So another important thing to know though is that what you perceive as being moisture in a slice of brisket is rendered fat. So it's not necessarily about the water, but it's about the fat content of the meat itself. And this is beautiful in terms of fat content. So now that we've tried that, great flavor. I think it might be, if anything, a little richer than most ordinary beef, but time to, let's look at that. That's gold. Time to take a look at the point. So I'm just gonna slice off a couple pieces, and then I'll choose a slice that I like to try it out. That's gonna be magic right there. Okay, let's take a look at this guy. Okay, so we got smoke ring there. We got still lots of intramuscular fat, and the fat band in the middle is rendered down pretty well. So I'm gonna take a bite from right there, and then maybe some from the flat underneath there. So nice and marbled, and then the lean portion as well. So just tear a chunk off of this, try it out. Oh, yeah. Oh, that might be some of the best brisket I've ever eaten. That's incredible, incredibly good. The intramuscular marbling makes it incredibly tender. I mean, it's not falling apart or pot roasty at all, but it's just super tender. I think I need to feed the camera lady. I'll try this out. I'll try it. It's super good. Isn't it good? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, in the past when I've tried things like that first dry aged brisket and I didn't care for, you know, I give my honest opinion, but man, that's good. That is lights out. Okay, I'm gonna try some of this. Oh, even better. Man, the rendered fat, seasoning on the outside, the bark. Man, that's good stuff. Wow. All right, so I'm gonna cut this until I'm halfway through the point, just so we get right in the middle, so we get that money shot and see how all that stuff rendered down. So I'm gonna cut a couple more slices here. This thing is still a tiny bit warm, but that's okay. So this is the point. And so we don't have that huge band of fat, but there was lots of marbling in there, and it's just rendered down. So this is just beautifully moist now. So if I squeeze on it, you see just moisture seeping out everywhere. And so that's why this brisket is special, and why people go out of their way to cook Wagyu. I mean, it's just really, really top-notch stuff. Really pleased so far. Last step, and I can kind of cheat because I made this brisket, I can tear it apart. And I can kind of cheat because I made this brisket, I can tear it apart. One more time. And I can kind of cheat because I cooked this brisket, and so I can cut off a piece here and cut off a piece there. Usually this isn't how you would slice a brisket. But I'm gonna take a piece off of this right here. So here I have maximum bark to meat ratio. So what I wanna do is I'm gonna come in here and just cut off this bite, because I think this is the bite that I want. So again, not normally what you would do, but this should be the perfect marriage of that intramuscular fat, have a little bit of fat on the exterior, and tons of bark. So bark to volume is very high, and so this should be an incredible bite. And my hands are still dripping rendered fat, so if this matches up to how good the flat and the point were, I will be very impressed. When I took a bite of the flat, I was like, oh geez, this is phenomenal. I was like, but the point, maybe the point isn't as good. And then the point was even better. And so, let's see. Oh, by far the best overall. Oh, so beautiful. The bark is still definitely there, but it didn't get crunchy. That's what I was afraid of. You just don't want anything to burn on an offset smoker, but man, each little morsel has so much flavor. Yeah. That's so good. All right, time to render a verdict. But I gotta stop eating. Man, you gotta try this. All right, final conclusion. I think that if you want a one-off brisket that's just gonna be lights out amazing and crazy moist, Wagyu is a phenomenal choice. If I were cooking one brisket to impress somebody, it would be this one. And there's nothing wrong with, Angus beef. That's what I cook, hundreds of. But if you had one shot to just blow people away, it would be this brisket. And I'll include a link where I got it down below, but super good. The insane thing about it is that the moisture is everywhere, even in the flat. There's tons of moisture. And for me, as I'm eating it, I think maybe it might be, because of all that, intramuscular marbling, it makes it taste richer, but I definitely feel like it's richer. So each bite would be more filling than just a standard brisket. But it's super, super good. If you haven't tried it, you need to try it. I mean, if you've been struggling to keep your briskets moist, this could be the answer to your prayers. I'm very happy with how this turned out, so I'd encourage you all out there to give it a shot and see what you think. And if it turns out well, or if it doesn't turn out well, let me know in the comments below. Okay, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, and you can get more fun and informative barbecue content. You can also follow me on social media at Mad Scientist BBQ. See you guys next time.